Okay, for question 5, it is a question testing you on your knowledge on energy and specifically how energy is converted from one form to another. So there's a lot of interesting answer. Uh, but in essence, right, this question is adapted from the 2020 O-level paper whereby you have a shuttlecock and a badminton racket. So let's begin. So in part A, there is this question asking you what is meant by work done. So when you are asked what is meant by, you need to interpret the context and give your answer accordingly. There are some students who gave me answers like work done is basically a product of a force acting on the dart multiplied by the distance traveled by the dart. Now this kind of answer is actually you are actually trying to answer is definition. So unless the question asks you define work done, then you can say something like, oh, work done is the product of the force acting on the dart and the distance traveled by the dart in the direction of the force. You can do that, but that is for definition question. For this case, what is meant by, you need to give a more contextual answer. Then there are some of you who follow our teaching and they notice that, oh, okay, it is 0.36. My teacher told me that when work done is 0.36 joule, I should think of it as it is 0.36 newton multiplied by 1 meter. And they give the answer like, oh, a work done means that there are 0.36 newton acting on the dart and the dart travel for 1 meter. Well, that is also not the answer to this question, because for this kind of answer, you are trying to answer something like, oh, what is meant by 0.36 joules of work done? If the question is asking you what is meant by 0.36 joules of work done, then yes, this kind of approach is correct. You should answer like, oh, 0.36 joule of work done means that there are 0.36 newton of force acting on the dart which actually travel by 1 meter. This is for this kind of question. Okay, but for this particular case, they are asking you, what does this mean when the question says there is this work done on the dart? So in essence, work done is basically the amount of energy that is being transferred into the system, or it is the amount of energy that is lost from the system. So the essence of work done is the amount of energy that gets pumped into the system or get taken out from the system. So in this case, you need to show the examiner that you are aware of this key concept about this type of energy called work done. Well, in fact, this is energy that is taken in or taken out or being transferred in. So in this case, I would expect you to tell me that first, you need to tell me that it is the amount of energy, right? You need to classify work done as it is the amount of energy. Then you need to show a clear understanding that, oh, work done refers to the amount of energy that is being transferred in or taken out. And in this particular context, it is the amount of energy that is being transferred to the dart, right? And if you want, in fact, if you answer until here, you will get full mark because it is just one answer line. But if it is given two answer line, maybe you need to say like, it is the amount of energy transferred to the dart from where? Maybe you can say by the user, or you can say something like, oh, by the air that is blown in. Yeah, but in this case, this is the optional part because you're only given one answer line. And I have mentioned multiple times that the amount of detail that you should include in your answer depend on the number of answer line, not the marks. Okay, so moving on for part B. For part B, it is very interesting. I can see there are people who, of course, there are the people who have pay very close attention and they notice that, hey, this is very similar to the shuttlecock question and they score very well. Then there are people who actually mistook this as the Cambridge question, whereby there is a golf club hitting a golf ball And basically the question is asking you, can you please describe how conservation of energy is being applied in this situation? And this question is very different from asking you to describe the energy change from one point to another point. So I will show you a few example of my students answer, and we will comment what they do. Okay, so let's switch to my photo here. So I have 3 of them. Let's begin with this one. Well, this guy says something like, as let me go into the edit mode. This guy says something like, as the ball dart exit A, okay, fine. Some of the kinetic energy and gravitational potential energy is lost to the surrounding as heat and sound. And I put a big fat clause here because to him, this is the diagram that he paints. Well, there are 2 types of energy, right? One KE, then GPE. Then they say that these 2 types of energy is now being converted into heat. Well, that is not true, right? Because as your blow dart sends the thing down, well, the GPE, of course, is lost because it moved downward. But this GPE is converted to kinetic energy because as something is falling, its speed will increase. So this path over here is wrong, right? It doesn't work this way. Then after that, kinetic energy to heat, wow, not yet. There is something happening before it turns into heat. So actually he is missing an energy here before it goes into heat. So unfortunately, that's why I say when you want to answer energy question, it is always best to sketch out the bubble diagram before you try it, before you attempt the question. It serves as a very quick way to plan your answer. So there is one, right? Let's look at another. Oh, so there's a lot of detail here. So let's see what did this guy do. What did this guy do? So it says describe the energy change. So it says at A, the kinetic energy and potential energy, what is converted to work done. So I say that this is wrong. Okay, your KE and your GPE, yes, this is what I am having at the start. At A, this is what I am having, but they are not changing together into one form of thing called work done. Well, yeah, you get what I mean? Yeah, the kinetic energy is true, is converted to work done, but the potential energy, it is not. It is turning into something else. Okay, so in your statement like that, you can see that you are oversimplifying things. Okay, but I'm happy here. Now you look as which is then converted to sound and heat energy. So this guy is better. He knows that he need to mention work done before he talks about the other energy. So it shows here again, as it falls to B, KE and GP in the product decreases, whereas increase. At B, the sum of is equal to the sum of You are trying to apply conservation of energy here. The question didn't ask you to apply conservation of energy. The question simply wants, can you tell me how the energy converts from one form to another, or does it transfer out or transfer into the system? So a student like that is answer like that is telling me that the student did prepare him or herself, but the student was not reading the question. He's trying to fit everything in, trying his best to cover all the angles, hopefully to get the full 2 mark. But that is not the way to go. You are penalizing yourself in terms of the time that you can spend on other questions. So this is not a very good tactic. Yeah. So learn to understand what the question wants from you. Okay, the last example. So you see here, this student says something like, as the blow dart travel from A to B, the KE decreases, okay, decreases, then become what? You mean destroy, disappear. Cannot, this is pure science. You must know what is the level of demand that the setter wants. Then you say potential energy of the product also decrease. True, it is true. Decrease and then turn into what? Then you say energy is lost. Loss converted to work done against air resistant. Oh, okay. You want to convert to air resistant, can. But this energy loss is from where? Yeah, you actually, the whole answer tells me that you know what you are saying, but I can't give any mark because you are giving me so much room of doubt that I cannot give you the benefit of the doubt. I know you are trying to say that the kinetic energy drops and then eventually it turns into this. Then after that, potential energy drop and you want to say it turn into this, but you never state. Okay, you need to state. You cannot let me answer the question for you and fill up the blank for you. Okay, and unfortunately, this student get 0, even though as the setter and as the marker, I know he or she knows his or her stuff. I cannot give the mark, okay, because the student is asking me to fill up the links for them, so cannot. So how to properly approach this question? Well, focus on the main thing. The question wants only how the energy changed. They didn't ask you why. They just want to ask you how, right? From what to what? Not how. I mean from what to what? The what. So, like I said, always start with the bubble mind map, right? At A, right? At A, what do I have? Well, at A, I have two types of energy: kinetic energy, and I have GPE, right? Because I have height. So as the height is dropping from A to B, I know that this thing has to be converted to kinetic energy at B. Correct or not? Then this kinetic energy, right? Because the question says it slows down, right? See here, as it exits A, moving faster as it leaves, then it slows down when it reaches B. That means this particular kinetic energy has to leave the dart, right? This energy is lost from the dart. So I have to say that there's work done. Well, this work done has to leave, right? So I know that this guy has to be lost, right? This is energy loss. So I have to account for it. How does it loss? Well, it is work done against air resistance. Yeah. So when I do work against air resistance, what do I have? The air rub against the dart, and then that will generate heat, right? So this work done is turned into heat, which is eventually lost to the surrounding, right? So work done against air resistance is your Q for the energy to get away, right? So as a result, your kinetic energy will drop. What? Correct or not? You will still have kinetic energy, but there will be less. You get what I mean? Yeah. So there is still kinetic energy, yeah, as it goes to B. It's just that this amount will be less. You get what I mean? Yeah. So it is something like this. So maybe let me tidy it up. So I'm saying that GPE will goes to KE. So these two are the same. So basically they will get plus together. They will add up. So these two, they will add up. Correct or not? Then as they add up, right, this kinetic energy is going to be like that, right, at B. Correct or not? So of course, if here, right, I have something like, I don't know, 1,000 joule, here I only got 900, maybe 100 is over here. So that's like that. So once I have this mind map, I'm going to start talking about all this. From A to B, right, what is the easiest to talk about? The easiest to talk about is this part, right, GPE and KE. So I will say, the GPE at A will convert to KE as it moves to B. Correct or not? So I know this one, the 1 mark, I confirm plus guarantee will get it. Then after that, I have to rephrase this part, right? That the dart is slowing down. So I will say the KE at A will decrease as it moves to B. Full stop. Right? You see, I only use one sentence, one idea. Right? I try to make it very clear. Okay. Then what do I say? Oh, this KE decrease, right, turn into what? I must say energy change. I must focus on this. This is the subject of my question. So Ke at A will decrease. So this Ke will be converted to work done against air resistance, right? Then I still got space, right? If I still have space, I may add in, which will then be lost to surrounding as heat. Well, so this guarantee means to get all the information, right? Because whatever I say here is about describing the energy change. I don't need to go and say what sum of energy and all that, because that is for conservation of energy, right? That's on how to apply the principle of conservation and energy to the context. So what I suggest you to do, if you are still not very clear, you look at the 2020, okay, paper 2, the O level one, versus the 2019 paper 2, O level 1. This one you will see a shuttlecock question with a badminton racket. This one you will see a golf ball, okay, with a golf club. Okay, you can also go and take a look at the 2018 or 17 paper. Okay, this one you will see a swimmer, okay, kicking off from the edge of the swimming pool. You see the different type of energy question and the different type of different type of approach to answer the question, and you will see a very clear difference if you put all the three questions next to one another. Okay, you try. Okay, for part C, most of you are able to give me the answer. You all are very aware that down here, that when you look at here, down here you have transfer in 0.36 joules of work done, and down here you are turning this energy into Ke, right? So many of you are able to actually tell me that the amount of work done that you transfer in is going to get converted to kinetic energy at A. And as you can see here, if you watch my previous video on the pressure question, this is what I mean by the expression that describes the system. Okay, so here, once you know this, many of you will be able to give me this equation, and you know that you can find the speed from here. But a majority of you forget that when you want to use formula, you have to give me the SI unit. So this thing has to be in kg, and if you still do not know, 5 gram is actually 0.00 kg. Okay, so if you substitute that in and you work it out, you should be able to get the answer 12 meter per second, and remember 2SF. Okay.